People who have been denied when proposing. How did it go down? This just happened to me. I'll start by saying that I grew up with this girl in a way that would make her pretty much my sister. Her mom is best friends with my mom and have been since they were little. And when I grew up with her, she was always the tomboy, and I was pretty much her yes man. We would walk to and from the bus stop every day, and after school, we would go and play in the woods behind my house. She actually taught me how to swim in the creek that ran through the woods where we built a couple tree forts. The day she taught me how to swim, we were both so happy that she gave me a kiss on the cheek. Being a bit socially awkward, I remember I just kind of stood there and she shrugged it off and said we should go have a stick war. She was 2 years older than me, and we sort of drifted apart when she went to high school and left me behind for middle school. Fast forward a few years to when I got to high school, and she was always the girl with a boyfriend. It was around that time that I realized I'd caught feelings for her. The timing was never good. The few rare times she was single never ended up working out. She knew I liked her, and as far as I could tell, she liked me too. After she graduated, I planned on going to the same college as her, but my grades didn't make the cut and I settled for community college while she went out of state to a real college. One really amazing new year, everything lined up. Both of us had just come out of the typical college flings and were getting really flirty with each other at a New Year's party. After that night, we began our 3-year relationship. Halfway through, she dropped a bomb on me, saying that she wished she lost her V-card to me. She said that about halfway through high school, she went to a party after a bad breakup. Some guy who was really good friends with her ex took advantage of her and essentially manipulated her into getting with him when she was blackout buzzed. She said this was the reason why she was always in a relationship, because she felt secure in one, but with me, she felt safe. She also talked about that one day in the creek when she kissed me. Currently, I'm in my last year at uni and she moved out of state away for this really awesome job in her field of study. It's been tough doing the whole LDR, but this holiday we've been visiting our family, so it's been nice. Last week, I took her to the creek where she taught me how to swim. It had just snowed and the creek was frozen over, so I got on one knee and pulled out the ring that I used a chunk of my student loan to pay for. She started crying and said that she had done something stupid when she was away this year for work. Now, this was always the type of girl that needed to be in a relationship, and when she was away in the other state, she spent the night at one of her coworkers' places because she always had trouble sleeping alone. I've never met this guy, but I'd heard her talk about him in the past, and something always told me that I didn't like this guy. In the morning, she realized what she had done and went home and showered. She said no to my proposal, and she said she would understand if I didn't want to talk to her again. But she needed some bus change to get home, about $3.50. It was then that I realized that my childhood friend, the girl that taught me how to swim and later how to love, was actually about 8 stories tall and was a crustacean from the Paleolithic era. I shouted back, "Damn it, Nessie, I ain't giving you no tree fitty." Dog, what the hell? Story 2. My friend H owns a Japanese restaurant and is a very cordial host. One of her friends who moved overseas several years ago was back in town and we took the opportunity to meet up at H's for dinner and drinks. It was a busy night in the restaurant, with our table of about 20, a table of Japanese people next to us of about 8 people, and the rest of the downstairs dining area full. There were about 45 people there. The drinks were flowing, and true to H's style, he was popping from table to table to invite rounds and drinks together with the guests and was noticeably tipsy. We were mostly minding our own business when H shouted above the noise, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. "We have an announcement to this table," he shouted, motioning to the table of 8 Japanese people next to us. "This gentleman wants to ask this beautiful lady a question." So at this point, the entire restaurant stops what they're doing and looks over. The Japanese woman, in her late 20s, looks like a deer caught in the headlights, looking for a hole to open up and swallow her. The man was a very quiet, traditional Japanese guy. He didn't pick up on it and reached down and grabbed a jewelry box from a bag under the table. The woman went noticeably whiter and started shaking her head. H, oblivious to what was obvious to everyone else in the room, was trying to keep the momentum, shouting for all to hear, "He's going to propose to her now." The restaurant was quiet. The Japanese guy mumbled something to her and she put her hands out to reject the box. H didn't notice and kept loudly encouraging the room to clap on and celebrate their special moment. Our table, realizing this was not going to turn out well, turned away from the train wreck. Someone grabbed H and told him to ease off, which finally seemed to get through to him. He made another announcement, slightly embarrassed to the diners. "Oh, what a shame." It turns out that the guy was just giving her a necklace. H has misread the entire situation and the poor woman had thought she was being proposed to. Embarrassed, she eventually accepted the necklace just to take the attention off them. You could see she was ready to deal with it later. But it was not over. 10 minutes later, another round of shouting and clapping. H yelled over the restaurant, "That was not the proposal before. He's ready to propose now." Everyone stopped and turned again to take in the scene. The woman was staring bullets at H. The guy reached down and grabbed another box from under the table. Somehow the subtleties of the previous 15 minutes had not hit this guy. H was making a big scene, excitedly pouring sake and whiskey and getting people to clap along with him. The guy proposed. She rejected. Room went silent, H seemed not to notice and went on celebrating. Another 10 minutes later and she'd been coerced by her table into accepting the ring, which she wore in her hand and pushed a very angry smile through her teeth. Everyone else was cringing and feeling awful for her. Story 3. Kinda late to this, but I have to share the story. So I work in an airport and international arrivals. So daily I see joyous reunions that are so filled with love that it makes me want to hurl. Can you tell I've been working there for a long time? One day I'm sitting in my store minding my own business, and all of a sudden I hear a trombone. I've seen people play guitar, ukulele, saxophone, and one time a drum set, but I've never heard a trombone in international arrivals. So the song starts going, and I recognize the tune. It's the Imperial March from Star Wars. I'm confused as hell and trying to find out where the hell this is coming from, so I'm scanning the crowd when I see this girl whose face is beet red. I'm assuming she has something to do with whatever the hell is happening, so I keep my eyes on her. She ends up walking to this guy who, surprise, is playing the trombone. He finishes up the song, passes his trombone to the person next to him, I'm assuming it was his friend, and then gets down on one knee. The girl is about 25 feet away from me, so if there were words exchanged, I did not hear it. But what I did see was the guy smiling, then suddenly looking dejected, standing up and walking away from the girl while she stood there with her face still red like a tomato. That was super awkward to watch. Oh damn, that guy's gonna move to the dark side. Story 4. I'm an MC. I've told this before, but I've been asked to be part of many such things, but for some reason, very few go through with it. Like, only 1 out of 10 people who plan to do it on stage actually show up at the event. Almost all that do, the girl says yes, with crying, applause, and kisses and hugs. One went really badly. It was at a cosplay contest, and I recall the guy got on one knee and proposed. The stunned girl said nothing, shook her head, and ran off. Then the guy's costume, a kind of medieval rogue or Robin Hood-ish affair, had to stand up from one knee and his boots were too tall for his legs, either that or he stepped in his cape, so he pitched to one side and fell over. And he got up and left. Audience was dead quiet. I didn't know what to say, so I just went on to the next contestant and pretended like it never happened. Later at the after party, the judges and the staff were all gossiping how horribly awkward it all was. One of the judges admitted, "I almost fainted from embarrassment and sympathy." Story 5. We had been together about a year. We talked about marriage a lot, planned on getting married, I saved up and bought a ring. I was going to propose on our year anniversary. But a week earlier, we had a party at our house I was DJing at. Halfway through the night, everyone is coming up to me asking if I'm okay. I don't understand why, so finally my sister tracks me down. She tells me that my girlfriend was seen making out with her other sister's ex-boyfriend. Right then, my girlfriend busts through the door and blurts out, "He forced himself on me." I've never experienced pure rage before that night. I saw red. I ran out into the living room. He was standing there. He sees me and runs. I chased him out the door. He gets in his car and locks the door. I start beating on his windshield. Everyone pulls me off. He passes out in the car crying, scared. She sticks to her story of him forcing himself on her, while everyone else tells me they saw them walking around the corner holding hands. We decided to take a break. A week later, I find out she's visiting him at his house, and they get together. I was never so heartbroken, betrayed, utterly destroyed. It started a long period of darkness for me. I told her I'd bought a ring. She wanted to see it. I told her no. Fast forward years later, I'm married to an amazing girl I actually met at that same party. I'm friends with the idiot dude. Oddly enough, he ended up marrying a good friend of mine, and has since begged my forgiveness and blamed it all on being a dirtbag kid. I get it, and I like the guy overall, and deep down I was glad he made me dodge a bullet. I realize this isn't technically a proposal denial, but I figure it's close enough to fit in with the title. No idea what happened to my ex. Don't care, life is good now. Man, I'm glad it worked out for him. That first part was making me mad, but it's funny how life works, you know? That situation blossomed into an even better situation down the road. Liking the video so far? Please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Story 6. I had someone propose to me, then take it back an hour later. In one day, I had a boyfriend, a fiancé, an ex-fiancé, and an ex-boyfriend. To elaborate, we went for a walk one day and he was visibly nervous. He finally stopped and said very hesitantly, "I've been thinking of the long-term benefits of marriage, of a marriage-type thing." Then he said he left the ring in the car but would pretend his wallet was the ring box. He got down on one knee and asked officially. I said yes. We walked home and he told me not to tell anyone yet. This was the first inkling I had of something being wrong. The aforementioned awkwardness and scatterbrainedness were characteristic of him. We got back to our apartment and ate dinner as usual. He was quieter than normal. After, when we were sitting on the couch, he put his head between his knees and said, "I've made a huge mistake." We ended the engagement, only a half hour, and broke up. I took a very long drive and came back 3 hours later. We talked and agreed to keep dating. 4 months after that, he told me he wanted to break up for good. When I asked him why, he hemmed and hawed a while before responding, "We went to Target way too much. Also, I didn't love you." We still haven't talked. We dated for nearly 4 years before the proposal, then he almost immediately vanished without a trace when we broke up. Story 7. For my mom, it went the other way around. She got rejected after being proposed to. My parents' engagement story is the least romantic one I've ever heard. They'd only been dating for 5 weeks at the time, and my dad, without giving her a ring, asked very casually if she'll marry him. And for some reason, she said yes. By the way, this didn't go down at a romantic fountain or over a classy dinner. No, it was in my dad's truck right before he dropped her off at home after the date. There was no kneeling, no ring, obviously not much thought put into it. And she said yes. He then called her the next day to say that he's been thinking about it and he wants to take back his proposal. A few days later, he changed his mind again and proposed for a second time, and even then, she still said yes. I don't know how a couple with such a horrible engagement story has lasted now 26 years and are still what everybody calls the cutest couple. Their relationship is still super strong. The parents have done a bunch of romantic gestures for each other since then. It just happens that this particular gesture was less than romantic. Just 2 years ago, they celebrated their 25th and they renewed their vows and they promised each other at least another 25. They're both great parents and great spouses. I guess it's just not true what they say. The only couples that make it are the ones who have a cute story. By the way, their meeting story is also pretty lame. My mom showed up to church for the first time in a neck brace after being in a car accident, and my dad thought asking her if she needed prayer was the perfect opportunity to get to know the cute new girl. He then said, "How does your boyfriend feel about you coming to church by yourself with a broken neck?" To which she responded, "I don't have a boyfriend." They were engaged 5 weeks later. Take notes, boys. We just found the Riz Master. Story 8. I got proposed to on my 18th birthday in front of my family and friends. He was my boyfriend at the time and such a gentle, kind soul. When he got on one knee, the whole room went silent and it was really scary for me and evidently for him also. The silence wasn't of excitement. It was of fear and pity for the poor young man who popped the question impulsively and far too soon. I had to say no. We had uni soon and obviously we were far too young. This really hurt our relationship and made it extremely awkward for the next month and somewhat for the next year. But I think he grew to understand it and be thankful that I refused as we moved in 2 years after that and struggled a lot with money in university. He proposed again when I was 25 when he took me to the lake where we met with a friend who introduced us, Caitlin and all our loved ones showing up after I said yes. We were together for 16 years altogether, married for 6, and had a gorgeous girl. Unfortunately, he passed away from a car accident on the way to work. Sorry to make this all long, but ours is the only relationship I know of that didn't fall apart after an untimely proposal. Story 9. I had been with the lady in question for 2 years. We were in our own little world, doing our own thing together. We had ups and downs, but nothing too dramatic, and I at least was happy. I saved for a while to buy the ring and had a day planned out culminating in the question. I did the one need bit and she flat out laughed, but said yes. I was overjoyed, euphoric, so put the laugh down to nerves or shock perhaps. Who cares? I was getting married. The next day I got up first, took the dog out and got home to find her putting down the phone. I asked who she had told about her engagement as we had agreed to tell people together. She said she had to talk to someone and dismissed it. I joked that it was her lover and she was having an affair. Her face dropped. My heart sank to my ankles and she then told me, quite plainly and calmly, that yes, I guessed right, that she was off to pack a bag. And then she did. 3 days later, it was almost like she was never there. Freaking witch tore my soul out and whipped her bum with it. I would love to wrap up with some kind of revenge or twist to it, but she married him. Hurt more than a bit, caused some depression and a bit of drinking. It seemed totally out of the blue at the time, but I always was a poor judge of character when it comes to women. Story 10. So my boyfriend had flown out to my hometown where I was spending the summer so he could spend some time with me. I was playing ocarina at the time. I was 23, and he came into the room and asked me to go for a walk. I said yes, paused my game, and he said, "Not yet, in a bit." I raised an eyebrow and went back to my game. By the time I was fighting that first spider boss, he was ready to go. Well, now I was neck deep in the first big boss of my game. I said, wait. He said he wanted to go, and I suggested he take my sister. So we walked down to the ocean as the sun is setting and he's being romantic, and he asks me if I was happy in our relationship. My best friend had just had this serious talk with me the night before, lamenting all the things she could see wrong with how serious he and I were. She was even trying to convince me to date one of her friends, and I had been with my significant other for a while at this point, so much to his chagrin, I said that yes, I wished we could work on a few things. He looked devastated. I said we needed more time for fun, we needed to chill a bit. He said he'd work on it, and as we hugged, I could feel him shaking. Oh, the panic set in. He then got down on one knee and I cried. Not the overjoyed jumping up and down crying either. I'll never get the slump-shouldered look of dejection in his face out of my head. So I confess that the idea of marriage terrified me. I felt I was young. Hello, Zelda. And all around me, all I saw were failed marriages. His dad left his mom for his 18-year-old secretary, for crying out loud, but I told him that I absolutely loved him and couldn't imagine being with anyone else. Then he asked if I could try it on. I wore the ring, showed my mom, and we gradually just were engaged, I guess. He's the best husband I could ever ask for, and I ruined what should have been one of the biggest moments of our lives. Well, it wasn't anybody's fault. Don't feel too bad. Story 11. I took my fiancée out to an island in Boston Harbor to propose with a view of the entire city spread before us. She said yes, and we had a beautiful day and returned to our warm, bright, shared apartment. My head began to fill with dreams of a shared house, children, and a future. 3 months later, she told me she had fallen in love with her soulmate, a married man she met at her internship. For 3 months, I tried to make her see my love for her, waking up early every morning to make her breakfast, date nights every weekend, and in the end, she still chose him. It's probably better this way. I'm moving out of our apartment over this break while she's home with family. It's times like this that you realize how important family and true friends are. To everyone who feels alone and rejected out there are people who love you too. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.